Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. You got Feddun here. You might have noticed we now have a theme song here on the podcast, and I want to thank Sloan Brothers for setting that up. You'll remember I had Sloan Simpson on the podcast a couple months back, and he was gracious enough to record that for us. So check his music out. Check out Sloan Brothers on Spotify. There's a link in the description. And this is the first of my series that I recorded at Athfest in Athens, Georgia. Now today we've got my interview with artist Frances Thrasher. Frances Thrasher is most known for her album cover for Patterson Hood's latest record, Exploding Trees and Airplane Screams. She also directed the music video for the song The Pool House, and created the tour poster for Patterson's last solo tour, which I did happen to catch and was a fantastic show. Highly recommend that album. Frances has been published in both the Odyssey and the Iliad News magazine, and literary art magazines, multiple times. She's had her work on display at many different exhibitions. Going back the last 5 years, she's been active. She's also done a little bit of acting here and there. And also did a music video for the band Jucifer. And they are the inspiration for the Oscar-nominated film Sound of Metal. So check that out. She was in a music video for the band Monsoon. She's done workshops at SCAD and at Columbia and is a very talented young artist. So keep an eye on her future work. We did talk about Athfest, too. Athfest is a music festival I've been going to for several years now. And it's a festival that is a combination free outdoor festival during the day, and then in the evening into the late night, it turns into a club crawl that you buy a wristband for at a very reasonable price. You buy a wristband, and it gets you into clubs all around downtown Athens. Full of amazing bands playing all night. You can't possibly see everybody you want to see, as with most festivals. And they have all kinds of music. They have everything from hip-hop, Americana, rock and roll. They have a gospel brunch. There's jazz. There's reggae. There's heavy rock. There was all kinds of music there. The other thing that's important to know is that all the money raised for Athfest goes to grants that fund arts and music education in the Athens area. Now, Frances did not have any recollection of anything that she's done being funded by a grant, but her high school art teacher, did just receive an Athfest grant to improve her class. And we've already had a couple of art teachers, music teachers in particular, on the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, because the other interviews I've got coming up, I talked to Jen Bryant, who is the Drive-By Truckers webmaster, but was also a board member for Athfest for several years. I interviewed members of Slightly Famous Somebodies. Kane Stanley, Valor Trucks, Jonathan Spencer, Laura Slade-Wiggins. So back to Frances Thrasher. I think she was maybe a little bit nervous. I think this was the first podcast she'd ever been interviewed for. I think she was nervous at first, but about 2 to 3 minutes in, she really settles into it. And I think she gave a really great interview. And it was really interesting to hear the perspective of somebody that was so young and early on, but also had found their voice and kind of their medium, or at least one they were really comfortable in at such a young age. So I think it's a really awesome talk. I hope you enjoy it. I'm here with visual artist Frances Thrasher, and I'm going to modify the question I've been asking a lot of people first, but because you're a visual artist and maybe you are, but not so much of a songwriter or a musician,
Yeah.
What is the first piece of art that you remember like really grabbing you and as like a child?
Okay, that's a hard question, but I was always just making anything at home, painting-wise, like little sculptures if I wanted, I don't know, something that I couldn't buy. But I think I finally started thinking that my work was art was when I was like a freshman in high school and I was developing my style. And I realized, okay, this is something that I haven't seen before and I'm liking where it's going. So I don't think there was a specific piece, but the first time I started doing portraits, I think was when I was like, okay, this is what I am really into doing.
Okay. I think you jumped ahead a little bit of what I'm asking, and that's totally cool.
Sorry.
I was going to ask that basically next, but like I'm talking about other people's art.
Oh, other people's art.
Yeah. So the first question I've been asking musicians is like, what's the first song that they remember hearing
Okay.
and being inquisitive about? And so similarly, like, what's the first like painting, statue, photograph that you like that really sticks? And it might not be the first one, but the first one you remember now.
All right. Okay.
To give me a lot to go on though in that answer, so I'm gonna follow up on all of that.
That is also hard. I always loved Monet. I remember when I was really little, my family took me to a gallery. I think it was maybe in New York. But I don't remember the exact painting, but I saw a Monet painting and I just ran right towards it trying to touch it, and it scared everyone so bad. But I think I knew, I was like, okay, this is something I need to get my hands on and get my hands on some oil paintings.
So you started with paint then when you were like really young, and it sounded like you started by imitating a lot of other people's art, things you wanted to have your own copy of.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the earliest pieces you remember imitating?
Yeah, it was mostly like this was when I was like in elementary school. I was I was seeing like I guess not necessarily toys, but collectible figures that I was like I really want that. So I was like making them out of clay and like doing things with fabric, making little like sets and stuff. And then that developed more into me making other like sculptures. So I'm a painter, but I do still have that like childlike wanting to create things that are tangible and I can like actually move around and stuff.
I'm a terrible painter, but that's actually what I spent my birthday doing with a friend. So,
yeah.
Like we did one of those like step-by-step YouTube video kind of thing. Like, it looked like a 5-year-old did it, and I was still like happy. It was still fun. It was still like great to get into that creative space.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not what you excel at, right? So I totally can relate to that. But I guess what kind of switched for you and when? Do you remember like what kind of made you go, okay, I'm going to stop imitating other people's stuff? Not even when you started considering yourself like an artist and found your like medium and style, but when were you like, all right, I'm going to make my own stuff instead of making a copy of this other thing or trying to, because I think that's I mean, if you think about what musicians do, they start by covering other people's music. Like, and it's weird with comedy because like comedy, if you go up there and tell somebody else's jokes, it's like that's your one-way ticket out of getting another show.
Right.
But almost every other art form, it's like pretty accepted. That's the like beginning.
Right.
So, what switched where you were like, okay, I'm gonna make my own stuff?
Back to what I was saying about, and right before Corona hit, it was I think 2019, and I started doing portraits of just anyone, like random people I knew, if not people I like saw on Instagram or something, and it came from that like me wanting to draw clothes that I liked or something like that. So similar to where I was like doing other things that other people have done, I was like I want to, I don't know, make a style with these people's faces and what they're wearing. And then that ended up just developing more of how I found how to do my own style, wise with pen and watercolor and stuff.
So, were you at that point looking at other portrait artists and other watercolor and colored pencil and painters? Were you looking at them to try and find what you liked and didn't like about their styles, or was your style like purely like it came out of me? And of course, there's influences.
Yeah.
But was it a conscious thing, I guess, is my question.
I think when I was developing my style, I was trying to do things that other people have done, and I realized, okay, this isn't working. And I was like, I just want to do whatever's easiest for me, and that ended up being what was, I don't know, was my style. It was, I feel like something about doing my own work was definitely easier than trying to do something else that someone has already done.
I hear that over and over again from pretty much every artist I've talked to on and off the podcast, right? And it's once they're able to be their authentic self in their art.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the obstacle for them, right? It's not that they don't realize that's the best way, but how were you able to just like pour yourself into it and open up that way?
Yeah, I think so. I just started doing a lot of portraits of some people I knew and then some people who I just saw online and thought were pretty. And I did like this idea of beauty and like women, because I really only paint women. And I painted, actually, Patterson technically was my first male subject, and that was him as a werewolf. But yeah, but so still, that's technically the only man I painted, and I just really like feminine beauty and doing things with fashion and hair and accessories.
But there's also a darkness
Yes,
to your work.
exactly.
Can you talk a little bit about where that comes from?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's authentic. It's not something that you're like, okay, I'm going to make this dark.
Yeah.
And I will say most artists I talk to talk about having some kind of a darkness they have to get out.
Yeah.
How did you find that? And I also know people that it takes them a lifetime to find it. You found it at a really young age. I think that's pretty unique in a lot of ways. You found your voice
Yes.
at a really young age.
I think it was a mixture of me developing my style and finding, okay, this is what I want to do. And then 2 months later, it was locked down, and I was forced to literally just be by myself with art. And I was like, not doing best as everyone else was during that time. And I think that definitely pulled out a lot of negative feelings. But with my art, I was able to like channel them and then put them on the paper instead of dealing with them with myself. So I was using my paintings as a way to handle all the issues that were going on. And sometimes I don't even mean for them to be that dark, and then I finish and I'm like, oh, okay, that was a little too much.
So do you think like the isolation of COVID and everything like that was a large contributing factor to kind of the dark lens that goes over some of your work?
Yes, for sure, because before it hit, I was still just developing my style, and then during those like 2 years, I think, it was just the only thing I could do, and it was really helping, and I would just be in my room all day dealing with my own emotions, and the only thing I could help to ease them was to draw something a little scary or maybe a little cute at the same time.
Yeah, one thing that a lot of artists I've talked to have said, and I'm using like that in the broadest sense, is like that if it doesn't come out in their art, like it's going to come out in a destructive way.
Exactly, I feel the same way. Yeah.
Were you able to stay ahead of that, or did you struggle with some things and then you found solace in your art?
Yeah, it definitely was a rocky time, and I think it was for everybody because of how, like, just getting used to being alone for long periods of time. And it definitely wasn't easy. I think during Corona, I struggled a lot, but I think it did eventually help me like realize, okay, there's other better ways to deal with this stuff than taking it out on myself. And I realized that, okay, I can put this on paper and it will end up me making something positive.
Yeah. So do you think that you've always had some of that or internal struggle, darkness, or do you think a lot of it really came from like the external factors that were going on in the world while you were like developing your style, or some combination of both?
Yeah, definitely a combination of both. I don't know, I feel like before, when I really started, it's hard to see like before and after Corona because I really started during that time period when I made my whole first body of work. But
Right.
I don't know, I definitely had a darkness before then that I had no escape with. I had nothing to do anything, like it was just building up. It's not good to let things build up. Yeah. So I think when I found that, okay, this is the best solution to how to get rid of these emotions, and I was like, it's the only possible way to get rid of them.
So I've talked to a lot of people that have a similar, some of it, sometimes it's a little more internal, sometimes it's a little more external. Like Jay Gonzalez, for instance, had a very stable upbringing. I think his parents stayed together like their whole
Yeah.
everything, and he really didn't have any struggles externally growing up. There wasn't a pandemic, and he was a kid. His family believed in what he wanted to do, but he did have like internal things,
Right, yeah.
like anxiety. And I guess where I'm going with this is, do you think that like you would have had? Do you think you would have become like found that outlet without
Right.
the external thing of? And I know it's so hard to separate like COVID from just like your existence.
Yeah.
At some point, just because of the time my daughter isn't. She just turned 8, so she's not much. She was is impacted by COVID
Yeah.
as like a lot of people in your age range.
Yeah.
Where I had a world before COVID that like I was able to like keep up with friends in better ways. I had lived longer, had coping skills for other things.
Yeah.
You know, her whole world shut down during her like developmental years.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a lot of artists I've talked to almost found in a very aware way, like COVID ended up being almost a blessing to
Right.
their artistic abilities and finding either Roddy found himself again.
Yeah.
I think Cole Taylor talks about how when you have the whole world shut down, it gives you the space to get that creative outlet.
Exactly.
So can you just, I don't know, what would your take on all that be?
I feel like if it hadn't happened, things would be completely different for everyone. I think it did affect the way people act. At least for the first year, we got back to normal. I've changed a lot since before, and I think it definitely did give people like chance to like focus on themselves and do that internal healing. And I don't know, I guess just like realizing, okay, as humans, we do have a lot of issues, and there are things that we can't really help, but there are things that we can do to make things better and not just dwell on the issues. And I think that's how I spent that time. I was just really focusing on myself, and I didn't even realize it, but I was making my style, and now it's made me to be the person I am today, where I'm just continuously, like, if I have issues, I'm like, let me put this on the canvas, let me think of some dark idea that will help me deal with this issue.
Yeah. I think when people say that everything happens for a reason, like the people that say that,
Yeah.
I think whether they consciously mean this or not, what they really mean is like you have to make a reason for everything that
Exactly,
happened.
yeah.
And so like making the most of any situation that you're
Mm-hmm.
put in. And it sounds like you were already on the path.
Mm-hmm.
You were really fortunate enough to be like finding your artistic outlet.
Exactly. Like, it happened at a crucial time, I guess. It was starting of finding myself, and then it was like everything was put on pause, and I was like, okay, what else can I do? And I realized like the only thing I really wanted to do was be in my room all day and paint and create these ideas that I hadn't seen before and stuff like that.
Why do you think that is? And this kind of goes back to what I was asking you earlier, is like, where do you think that darkness or
Mm-hmm.
whatever comes from? If it's not just the COVID, if it existed before that.
Right.
And I don't want to be presumptuous, but it seems like you had a pretty stable upbringing.
Yes.
and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so where do you think you struggle with like anxiety and depression?
Yes, I do a lot with both of those things.
Yeah.
And I feel like many humans do have one or the other, or both, or a mixture of just a whole lot of stuff. I don't think anyone's necessarily sane. And
Yeah, normal is just
yeah,
average.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I think everyone has that darkness in them, and I think it just takes a way to dealing with it, if it's positive or negative. And most of the time in this world, it's become negative. So with art, it's definitely like and music, like it's a really good way to challenge those like inner like hatred or inner feelings of just not being good enough, or anything
Mm-hmm.
like stability in relationships. And I think that like music and art like just really show like that there's light in this darkness that you can create. Because if someone's just happy all the time and doing good, they're not going to be able to like make really good art. They probably can, but it's not going to be as emotional.
I've at least heard that it's a lot harder
Yeah.
to, even if you are happy, it's like harder to be artistic in that frame of mind. So let's go back. Speaking of me, I'm going to ask
Yes.
you the question I've asked everybody else.
Yes.
What's the first, and I'm assuming that you love music.
Yes.
I mean, you were raised in like a very musical upbringing at city.
Yes.
What's the first song that you remember hearing and loving and being like inquisitive about and be like, who's this? I want to know more about this.
There was a lot that is really hard, because as a kid, I definitely just listened to the music my dad would play, and I don't know, there's just so many good records that he would put on in the morning that definitely are nostalgic to me now, like Beach Boys or Beatles, like old classic bands. But I don't know, I always just really liked any type of music. Like I don't know, anything like really that has a good like meaning or like a good sound. I enjoy.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to me, there's two kinds of music.
Yeah.
Good music and bad music.
Yes, yeah.
Like, there's
Exactly.
not, like, genre doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your first concert?
Oh, okay. My first concert actually was at the Classic Center here in Athens, and it was Alabama Shakes.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and that was really exciting for me because I loved them growing up, and having that be my first concert was definitely amazing because
I love them.
Yeah,
too.
they're so good.
I saw them open for the Truckers
Oh, wow,
at the 40
yeah.
Watt, and actually on New Year's Eve with Booker T.
nice.
And then 6 months later, I went to Birmingham to see the Alabama Shakes, and Patterson opened for them.
Dang.
It was like this able to turn
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, yeah, they were definitely an amazing first concert to have. Like, I'm happy to say that they were like my first concert.
They got back together. Have you heard?
I did, yeah. It's so cool because
I'm excited.
Me too.
I like Britney's solo records.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to hear what they've got next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like musically inclined or inquisitive? Do you have any? Do you play instruments like on your own, or do you like to sing or anything like that?
No, I just love listening to music, and I think that I have to keep. I've never been a very musical making person. I tried learning multiple instruments, and it never really clicked. And I think that was maybe because people have what they're good at, and I think you can also practice, and that will make things better. Like, I definitely was not like good at drawing when I started, so it takes a lot of practice.
You have to want to practice.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that was my issue. Like, I was like, I don't have a wanting to make music, but I have a wanting to create some imagery or something that is still like showing like emotion. But yeah, I wish I could make music. It seems so fun, but at this point in time, I'm sticking with painting.
Yeah. I think I'm a karaoke singer.
Yeah.
At best, and but I joke that like all comedians are wannabe rock stars, and most songwriters like wish they were comedians.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure Mike Cooley wishes he's doing stand-up sometimes, but he's so meticulous about his words.
Exactly.
He would only do 10 minutes, and that would be it.
Yeah. I know. Everyone should try something at least once. So, it's music, comedian, or art.
So how much do you think, like, growing up in an environment where, like, art was being fostered, I'm assuming that nobody was like, oh, you need to come out of your room and stop drawing so much.
Yeah.
So you had a really, like, positive environment that fostered that kind of growth in. What would you have done if you didn't?
Yeah, that would have been, I can't even imagine that.
Would you have been, like, rebellious about it?
Definitely, because I literally can't see myself doing anything else besides painting. And it's hard because when it comes to thinking about my career, I still haven't gotten there yet. So that's a whole nother chapter. But yeah, if I had so much support, like, in this, like, growing up, being like, yes, you can do art, you can, like, find a way to make this a job. And I think having that is just really nice because no one's in your ear being like, there's still people in your ear, but no one's really being like, no, this won't work, you'd be broke and stuff like that. But I feel like if you have the ability and the wanting to make it into something, I think it's possible and anything.
I'm trying to remember who said it, but somebody on here was like, if you give yourself a backup plan, like, you're absolutely going to do that.
Yeah.
So, like, don't give yourself a backup plan. If you know what you want to do.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
Don't give yourself a backup plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, like, you're going to go there. Like, you're going to take that.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I think it was J. Roddy Walston, actually, that said that. I'm getting to the point now where they're starting to run together. And I'm getting, like, oh, cool, the train's going by.
Train's coming.
I don't know if it'll even pick it up, to be honest with you, because it's not going very fast.
Yeah.
But there's a train going by, which is... How much do you paint in here or draw in here at all?
No, I just have had a show here, and then I am able to sell some of my prints, and that's just really nice because I'm alongside such other really great artists. That's Grant Britton's photo of the skateboarder, and then we got all of Terry's work.
That was a short train.
Yeah, it was very short.
It was only like 6 cars.
Yeah, yeah, they come through a lot. At least it didn't make a ton of noise.
He heard you.
Just kidding. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't make enough noise for
you. Literally. That's funny.
That's great.
There, at least it got a little action.
That's hilarious. I love that.
It's too funny.
I think the train is far enough away.
Hey there, are you sitting down? Good, because Wayfair's end-of-season sale is here, and you can shop it from your couch. It's Wayfair's Labor Day clearance, and it's on now. Right now, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair, like up to 50% off outdoor furniture and decor, and up to 70% off area rugs, plus amazing doorbuster deals, and 24-hour surprise flash deals on Wayfair home finds in every style. And get it all with fast shipping on everything, right to your door. From furniture to faucets, this is your last chance of the season to score huge deals at Wayfair. Don't let the final days of summer pass you by without shopping these end-of-season savings. So don't wait. Like summer, these savings won't last. Head to wayfair.com today to score up to 70% off everything home. Celebrate your holiday weekend with can't-miss savings before they run out. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 2nd at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Yeah, I think it's...
So when did you decide, what was the final start where you're like, I'm not going to play music?
I guess
It sounds like you tried.
Yeah, I did try a lot. Like, growing up, it was pushed. Before I knew, like, painting and art was definitely what I was wanting to put all my effort towards. I tried learning the piano, I tried learning the ukulele, the guitar, flute, and then none of those worked. And I think after I did band in middle school, and that's when I tried to learn the flute, and I just realized this is not working. Like, I have no wanting to, I guess, write music. And that was definitely, also I was young, and I wasn't really thinking about art as much than just as a fun little hobby.
It's one of those things we take for granted. It's everywhere,
Exactly,
all the time.
Yeah.
And music is too. But we don't even think about, it's so abundant in, just from the graphic design of a commercial to, and I don't necessarily want to call that art, but it was done by a graphic designer and an artist, and maybe less these days. But, but my point is that it's one of those things we just take for granted that it's there, and we don't think about who made the flyer for that fest, or who took the photo that's on the greatest hits out on the cover, or whatever. We just take it for granted.
Definitely.
But one thing, like, Patterson has always talked about being important to him. I think, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a documentary that came out 15 years ago called The Secret to a Happy Ending.
Okay, no, I haven't.
And he talks about when he got into Led Zeppelin. I didn't get into Led Zeppelin because I heard it on the radio. I got into Led Zeppelin because I was in the record store and the art looked cool. And I took it home and it was fucking Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And he's always put a lot of care into the artwork of his music. As a result, I think because of that, and also because he cares about the products he puts out as art, not just as a product.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but I feel like it just came up naturally at this point, and we can move all around. But can you just talk about how he approached you, because I feel like there was part of it that it was you had already done, and then part of it he commissioned. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can just tell that story.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Okay, so the painting he picked for the album cover was one I did a very long time ago. It was during Corona when I did it, and it's actually so crazy, but this has only happened with this painting, but during that time I was watching a lot of Twin Peaks, and
cool.
Yeah, and I was really into that, and it was that night, and I was dreaming, and I had this weird dream that I was in the Twin Peaks kind of room, but everything was green, and it had these, like, gold lights, and then I was like, weird, like, I really like this idea. And I'd never seen, like, I think the room's all red in Twin Peaks, like the floor might be black and white, but the curtains are red. So this room was completely all green, but it still had the long curtains, like, floor to ceiling. And I was like, I don't know why, but this is really speaking to me. And then I painted this painting, and I was also dealing with girl drama and like, growing up being petty, and I decided to do the knife in the head and with the green curtains and background. And I titled it, I think at the time, it was like Death of a Soft Girl in the Dream World, something like that. And I remember at the time, I posted on Instagram, and I think that's where Patterson had seen it. And I think, I didn't know this at the time, but he had really connected with it. And this was like, multiple years later, he, I think, reached out being like he wanted to buy it. And I was like, yeah, of course. But then it was one of the few paintings I didn't have in my solo show here at the gallery, and so I still had it, and it was just kept away in a box, and we pulled it out, and he mentioned that he had been thinking about it for the past like 3 years, and that he just really,
Wow.
yeah, he just really connected with it. And that was like so meaningful, because I don't know, it's like something about the dream telling me to paint it, and then having someone else really feel connected with it. It was like special, and I was like, wow, something was driving me to be like, you need to make this painting, because it opened up so much of these nice opportunities. And so then Patterson was like, I want to use it as album cover, and I was like, please, like I would love that. It's such an honor. And then after that, I created a music video for him, so that was commissioned, and a tour poster. So those two were commissioned, but then the album cover itself was made like multiple years before.
Man, that's the ultimate petty revenge.
Right, exactly. Yeah, on an album cover.
Yeah, really. I think about that piece a lot. You have the vinyl, the 12-inch print of it.
Yeah.
And that's part of what Patterson has always cared about, like making really nice like packaging for his record. And so it was a very conscious decision for him to use. I will say, I have a few questions here. I guess I'll start here. When was the first time like you became aware of the Drive-By Truckers, Patterson Hood? Were you a fan? Were you like going to their shows already, and then he reached out, or was that was like your introduction to them?
No, yeah, that was not my introduction. I was really close growing up with Patterson's kid, Eli, and we were very close. Cool. I think we were in like a play group together with a ton of other babies.
Gotcha.
We did know each other, and so Patterson, I would go to their show with Eli, and we'd be backstage playing with little toys, and they'd be on stage doing their thing. So I knew Patterson for a while, and I think since they had moved to Portland, I just hadn't seen them in a long time, except when they come to visit. So it was a shock that it was like, oh, you're still like thinking of this painting. And I was like, wow, it's really meaningful. And so like even though we weren't as close as we were when we were little, it was like a really nice like reconnection.
Yeah. So you were aware of what like Wes Freed's work growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
Would you call him an influence, do you think?
Definitely, 100%. I remember being terrified of his work when I was little. I don't know why, but that like how eerie everything was. I just always was drawn to it, but I was very creeped out, and I like that. Like I really am interested in this work, but it also gives me like a fear, like a feeling of dread, or like a feeling of okay, this is like a dark, I don't know, atmosphere that he's created. So yeah, he's 100% like influenced me. I always loved his work growing up, and
me too.
Yeah, like I love that. Yeah, I saw that. It was nice.
Patterson's story about discovering Led Zeppelin as a kid is the same story I have about the Drive-By Truckers. I was working at a record store in the Dirty South. Like it was going to be on a listening post. A ton of like promo copies.
Oh yeah.
But they were the full album, full artwork and everything. It was CD at the time. I bought the record like the day it came out, but I took it home, and by the time Putting People on the Moon came on, which is the fourth song, I put it on repeat.
Yeah.
And like the next day, I came in and bought Decoration Day and Southern Rock Opera, and then 2 months later, they reissued Gangsta Billy, but it was the same thing. It was the artwork.
The art, yeah.
I was like the cover of the Dirty South. Similarly, I was 18, and it was like this is like scary.
Yeah.
But I want to know why.
Exactly. It's not like his work is very. It doesn't have anything that's necessarily like very scary, but for some reason, it's just the whole energy of the work was like an uneasy, but I want to explore this. So I really enjoyed that form of his work a lot.
So what does it feel like to be, in some ways, like his like spiritual successor in the sense of doing Patterson's artwork for his music? And how much did you like think about him when doing like the music, when you were doing the commissioned work, the more intentional stuff?
See, I think when it was actually commissioned and it wasn't something I'd done in the past, it was so much harder, because I'm thinking about all the eyes that are so used to Wes Freed and how much love that he has, and it was very difficult doing the poster, because I was just thinking, okay, I need to make it in my style, but I want it to be Patterson's vibe, and I want it to like match his energy. And it's just so hard to work with those high expectations of how great like Wes Freed was in all those years of doing all the posters and album covers and stuff. So it was very stressful. I definitely, like with the commission stuff, that's where it got more stressful, just because I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want people to be like, oh, this isn't it's definitely not as good, but it's.
I wouldn't say that. It's its own thing, and it's amazing.
Exactly. I wanted to try to make it its own thing. And
I've stared at it just as long as I've stared at some of his other pieces. So it's really, as long as you make it its own thing.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
not. It's comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah.
But I do think like when I see it, what I don't see is like you copying or even necessarily being influenced, but almost like channeling some of his energy.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to me that album cover was drawn years before it was even like. Wes Freed talks about in that same documentary about how it was like he was having conversations with the music.
Wow.
So he would draw things that he didn't see, but the band saw.
Right.
And he would draw things that in the songs and hear things in the songs that they didn't hear.
Yeah.
When you were doing the tour poster, were you just like listening to the album like on repeat?
Yes.
Were you trying to like really interact with the music in that way?
Yes, 100%. Because especially this album, it is very just visually, like it tells a story. And there's so many like great like things that I could have chosen to paint for. He had a few other ideas like Pinocchio or the Volkswagen. And like both of those would have also been like really cool ideas. And I think we landed on the werewolf just because I guess it was supposed to be like, I guess it's just a very big symbol of who he was trying to make.
He's looking a little werewolf.
Yeah, a little werewolf. Yeah, and I like that style. Very dark and, I don't know, just mysterious. So I think it worked. And the whole album just had so many like really good, like visually pleasing things that I could have done more with and stuff. So it was easy to have that inspiration from the album. It came easy, but it was just like trying to make, I guess, it my own in a way that was also fitting Patterson's whole essence. So that was where it was a little hard.
So if art is like one of your main stress reliever, what do you do when your art is things stressing you out?
That's where it's hard because it's the commission work that's stressful, and then obviously that's like work. So, it's not as easy as when I just get to paint like a girl. But it is way more satisfying, I feel like, when I finally finish it. So it has it makes up for the stress because like the music video was also very stressful, and only because I was like really anxious about wanting it to be perfect, and I hadn't done stop motion in a long time. So I was trying to do what I was doing during Corona, and that was years ago now. So I was reopening these like things I had closed, but it was still so nice, and I think it turned out better than I was expecting.
Let's go back to Corona for a minute.
Yes.
What were some of your other coping mechanisms to try and get through? It sounds like painting was the main one, drawing, but I'm sure that wasn't the only thing, right? Like, what were some of your other things that you did to get through it?
So back to when I was little and making those little sets, I did little stop motions with my dad, and that was more just fun. We were doing like Mr. Potato Head, like spinning in a circle and stuff like that. So then when Corona came and I was dealing with like finding my own style, I don't remember how it got the idea, but I had this old dollhouse that was my aunt's when she was a kid, so it's like very like Victorian style, like mansion, and we had it like growing up, like I would play with it with my dolls, but I can't remember how I came to this conclusion, but I was just thinking maybe I need to do something more than just painting. So I started making more clay dolls like I did when I was little, and making sets in the dollhouse, and then I just created a kind of just random stop motion to a Radiohead song, and I was like, okay, this is really fun. I like doing that, and I made, I think, 3 more during that time, and they progressively got more dark. They were definitely darker than my paintings, and I don't know, I think I was just definitely struggling at that time, and taking it out on these little dolls just helped.
Making them murder each other?
Yeah. I mean, I had one about this like crazy doll that was kidnapping people and dismembering them, and I had my dad help me cut up Barbie heads and mount them on the walls of this dollhouse. So it's definitely a change from actually playing with the dolls in the dollhouse to cutting them up and putting them on the walls.
That's a warning for other dolls.
Yeah, exactly.
Are those available? Do you have those up?
Yeah, those are
somewhere?
all on YouTube and my website. So my YouTube's just Frances Thrasher, and then my website's Heaven4TheYoung with the number 4.
So as someone else who uses like a moniker, where did you come up with yours?
Okay, yeah, that is also, I think it was early on before I even developed my style. I had created an Instagram just to document my sketches, and even if you are still on my Instagram, you can scroll down and see my first posts were really simple, just drawings of like basic things, and I think that, like, I came up with the title before I even came up with my body of work, and I was like, I think I was young, and I was dealing with a point of time, like, not knowing how I feel about religion, and I think I just like the idea that, like, you can have heaven and be young. Like, it doesn't have to be something that you're waiting for. It can be in the moment. And I realized, like, I wanted to create a heavenly look to my work, especially at the time I was doing a lot more religious-related stuff. And I think I somehow just came across that, and since then I haven't thought of anything better, so I'm just keeping it.
I mean, it's great. People know you by it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about some of the more like religious work that you did in the past?
Yeah, I did a lot, mostly just related to my like teenage, like edgier self, like girls in cemeteries or girls holding rosaries and crying and
I've
Bibles.
seen some of those.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that at one point of time, like in my beginning of Corona era, and I think I was mostly just debating on what I felt with religion, because I grew up around like religious people, but at the same time it wasn't forced and didn't go to church or anything. But I knew that there is some form of higher power. Like, I definitely believe in some form of higher power, but the ideas of Christianity that was like, there's strict, I don't know, like borders to how to believe, and I didn't like that. So I think I was developing my own way of being spiritual, and I think the restrictions that some religions have, I was just doing a little bit of that, like how people bury their dead, and how in other countries that might not be normal, and that there's other things that aren't as normal that have become normalized. So I think I was just dealing with a lot of confusion and just different feelings.
Interesting. Man, thanks for sharing that. Like, I was definitely curious about
Because I definitely
where's
do have,
my came from. So when you're drawing and painting, how much of it is this is something that is totally about me or from inside, or like how much is it about a character or a person, maybe a feud? And I guess what I mean is, like, how much of it is I'm drawing a character, even if it's a real person, and how much of it is I'm imagining this thing that I'm drawing?
Yeah, I think I definitely come up with the idea first before I just have at it. But I like to create a whole, like, when I first started, I was just doing faces with white backgrounds. And I think when I officially found my style was when I was creating scenes along with the portrait. So I like incorporating different rooms or different plants or animals. And I think that helped me, like, build. I just, something about building, like, a scene. And I think that's the same with, like, building sets for the stop motions. Like, I really like creating a whole scene that shows something, like an emotion that's not just captured with just the person. And I like incorporating clothes as well, obviously. Yeah, so something about just a whole mixture of creating something nice.
Let's just talk about growing up in Athens, Georgia for a little bit. This is one of my favorite cities in the world.
Yeah.
There's a reason I keep coming up here to do these interviews. It's like one of the most culturally abundant, especially like per capita, like any city in America. Will you just tell people, like, what is it like growing up in a city like this?
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I've been here my whole life, and I realized I haven't been away from Athens for more than 2 weeks ever, which is crazy. And
wow.
Yeah. And so it's my home, and at some point I want to leave, but it will be hard because I think with Athens there is such an amazing community of all sorts of artists, and everyone, like, understands that we're here and we're trying to, like, make something of this town and create, like, a very artistic, like, form of how we all communicate and the community that, is made here. And I think having things like Athfest or, like, other, like, protests and, like, fairs or things downtown, like, have just been really nice to build this community. And I don't know, I wish I could be more involved with the music scene here, but I am a very, like, big homebody, so it is hard for me. But growing up, I did go to a lot of shows downtown, which was, like, I guess not the norm for most kids. And I think that did help me, like, see that there is a big family involved with, like, music and art. No matter, like, what you're creating or what you do, that you're, like, welcome. And I really like that.
Yeah, the Athens art community in, like, the broadest sense, like, really lifts each other up.
Yeah,
constantly.
yeah. And I feel it, like,
really cool.
every time I see people, they are so nice. And I'm like shocked when people like remember me. And I'm like, wow. And it's just really nice to hear like good things from all these other really good artists here.
Well, yeah, you're an amazing artist. I just want to like, you belong with them. Like you're at home with them.
Yes,
So
I do feel.
you should. Yeah, don't ever let them make you feel like you don't belong.
And
You
and
definitely do.
And it's really nice because really no one does.
Right.
Yeah, Athens is it's not like other art towns like, I don't know, like New York where people are very snooty and they're like, oh, that's not art or something like that. Because I think anything that has like good intentions or like, even if it's like bad intentions but in a good use of it, I don't know, like with negative art, that doesn't make sense. Like some people have very hard things to deal with and art is the way to create that. And I think it's just nice that this community's here and everyone's just open to.
When everybody's thinking about that fact when they're looking at other people's art, they're understanding that, hey, this person is putting themselves out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like it takes a lot to put yourself out there, and especially with like new bands and new artists. Like I was expecting it just to be a hobby for me, and then when I really started, I don't know, like selling work and seeing that people like connected with it, and I was like, okay, maybe I can actually create something. And if I didn't have that feeling, I wouldn't be feeling this way. Like it takes the support and like love from the community.
Absolutely. Especially like the times that you grew up here.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Those were hard times. I think even when people had positive outcomes and experiences with some of what happened during, like, it was still hard.
Yeah, we still lost a lot of really good restaurants and people that had to move or leave or sadly passed away. There was ups. It's all based around like a medium of downs, ups and downs.
And having a really like great community.
Yeah.
So I'm here this weekend for AthFest. Can you just talk to me about some of your memories with AthFest as somebody who grew up here?
Yes, I definitely love AthFest. It's always fun. Like when I was little, like being able to just have a group of friends and just roam around like without really a word because I basically knew everyone I saw.
Yeah.
And it's just nice because everyone gets to come out, like, sell work if they have work, or play music because it shows like there's stages for all sorts of bands.
Absolutely.
So I think it's fun just to hop around and see the new bands and see the known bands on the main stage. And yeah, I think I actually was out of town last year, so I missed it, but I'm excited to go back down this year.
Is there anybody you're like really excited to see this year?
I haven't actually looked at any of the set. I just know like maybe the main set and doesn't really catch my attention, but I definitely want to go down and see like the littler bands and other like people I know.
I usually save the last few minutes here to just to give you a place to talk about what you've been working on lately, what you have coming out, where people can find your work, what kind of work you're open to, like if you're open to commission pieces.
Yeah.
And we can wait a second and let the train come by so like we make sure we capture this clearly. But
normally it's not this many.
It's a tiny one. It's on 2 cars.
Or
no?
No, 3 cars.
Okay.
They're going back.
I saw the reflection.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wait a second,
small.
what am I seeing?
Yeah, there's more than I was expecting to come by.
Yeah, what have you got going on? What have you been working on? What kind of work are you like working on and like open to? And
so I have been studying art at UNG in Oconee in Athens, or in Oconee, Georgia. And I have enjoyed that, like starting with figuring out my art major, but I'm going to try to apply to UGA because I want to get to Lamar Dodd and actually have a bigger community of people to work with. But at this point in time, I'm mostly just working on my own.
So you're going to art school?
Yes, I want to be an artist. That is the goal.
I wasn't sure some artists, they find their voice. Like one thing I'll say about you that's rare, and this goes for all mediums, like whether it's like comedy, finding your voice is like the quintessential part of, and I think you're always going to be evolving it.
Exactly.
But being able to like have this sense of self that you can put into your work, that takes years for some artists, decades. Some people never find it. So you're like way ahead of the game there. I wasn't even sure if you were going to go to art school. I was like, because at some point, like they can't teach you what your voice is, right? That being said, like I think that's amazing, and they're lucky to have you.
I'm applying, so hopefully. And I've never taken actually a painting class or any sort of painting thing. So to actually be like in a painting classroom and have someone be like, this is the correct way to do things, this is how you should do things, it will be hard, and I will have to get out of like my head of how I have taught myself to do like my paintings. But I think that is something I need to learn, and
I think that's how artists grow.
yeah, exactly.
But I think like having that ability to have almost like that direct connection, like your art's gonna grow as you grow as a person.
Yeah.
But you've already been able to create that channel from who you are to what your art is. That is, and I'll be honest, I feel pretty lucky as a comedian. Like I feel like I found my voice pretty quickly too. But I also didn't start doing comedy till I had lived and done a lot of stuff, a lot of public speaking, for instance, a lot of things that like lent to me being like comfortable there.
Yeah.
So I just think it's like the fact that you were able to have that to find your voice. Are you open to doing like commissioned work for people right now?
Yes.
And then if so, what kind? Where can people reach out to you to get it done? And don't talk prices. You negotiate that later. But where can they find you and be like, hey, I want stuff?
Yes, I do want work. I love like doing the commission work for Patterson was like a first, and I think like it really showed me that like I can do it, and I really want to do that because I don't know. So doing work for other people just adds more like that you're doing work for people. It's not for yourself, and I like that. Like I want people to connect with my work. So I have on my website I have my email and my phone number. So that is my main way of connecting, and my Instagram. So my website is Heaven4TheYoung with the number 4, and then my Instagram is the same thing.
They'll all be linked in the description of this episode for
perfect.
everybody.
Perfect. So yeah, that's my main way. Just anyone can email me, text me, and I'll be happy.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with everybody before we wrap this up, or?
No, that's been really nice. Like I really enjoyed talking.
Yeah, this was great. I really appreciate you opening up to about your creative process and just everything. Like this is wonderful. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and for doing this.
Thank you.
That was my interview with Frances Thrasher, aka Heaven4TheYoung. I really think she's got a really bright future ahead of her. She does have an art show coming up October 19th at the Ace Francisco Gallery. So if you're in Athens, Georgia, or anywhere near it, I highly recommend you check that out. You can also get in touch with her directly, as she said, if you're interested in commissioning some work. I think she also has prints available for sale on her site. It was a real pleasure talking to a young artist and seeing some of the direct impacts that art education has had. Thanks for tuning in. Click that subscribe button because we got some great guests coming up. I'm not going to go through the list again, but you're not going to want to miss it. And if you feel so inclined, hit that donate button. That's what pays for my travel to go do these interviews. Helps pay for some of the upkeep on this site. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was my interview with Frances Thrasher, aka Heaven4TheYoung. I really enjoyed talking to her. I think she's got a really bright future ahead of her. She does have an art show coming up October 19th at the Ace Francisco Gallery. So if you're in Athens, Georgia, or anywhere near it, I highly recommend you check that out. You can also get in touch with her directly, as she said, if you're interested in commissioning some work. I think she also has prints available for sale on her site, which you'll find linked in the description of this episode. It was a real pleasure talking to a young artist and seeing some of the direct impacts that art education has had. Thanks for tuning in. Click that subscribe button because we got some great guests coming up. I'm not going to go through the list again, but you're not going to want to miss it. And if you feel so inclined, hit that donate button. That's what pays for my travel to go do these interviews. Helps pay for some of the upkeep on this site. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hey there, are you sitting down? Good, because Wayfair's end-of-season sale is here, and you can shop it from your couch. It's Wayfair's Labor Day clearance, and it's on now. Right now, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair, like up to 50% off outdoor furniture and decor, and up to 70% off area rugs, plus amazing doorbuster deals, and 24-hour surprise flash deals on Wayfair home finds in every style. And get it all with fast shipping on everything, right to your door. From furniture to faucets, this is your last chance of the season to score huge deals at Wayfair. Don't let the final days of summer pass you by without shopping these end-of-season savings. So don't wait. Like summer, these savings won't last. Head to wayfair.com today to score up to 70% off everything home. Celebrate your holiday weekend with can't-miss savings before they run out. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 2nd at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.